Okay, so every day after recess, I do a read aloud with my in-person kids. We've read Judy Moody and Another Horrible Harry book, and every time I forget to record myself for you guys. So today they reminded me, and we're going to read Horrible Harry Goes to Sea. We read one chapter a day. There's not an assignment or anything for you to do. All you have to do is listen. Here we go. Ancestors. My name is Doug. I'm in 3rd grade. I write stories about things that happen in room 3B. Usually the stories are about Harry, who likes to do horrible things, or Song Lee, the nicest person in our class. I never thought I'd write about Ida. I mean, why would I? She hardly even says anything. She plays with Song Lee and Mary. She takes dance lessons after school. She wears her hair in a ponytail that looks like a neat bush on top of her head. Big deal. Well, one morning in November, we found out something about Ida that none of us knew before. I couldn't believe it. No one could. It all started on a Tuesday when Ida walked into class carrying a black box. It was about the size of a loaf of bread. Ooh, Mary oohed. A box with a lock. What is inside? You'll see, Ida replied as she walked over to her desk. The bush on her head bounced around it like it was in a windstorm. Mary followed her. Does that little key you're wearing open the lock on the black box? Yes, Ida said, fooling with her gold necklace. This key opens it up. Now 4 of us stared at the gold key. Open it, Sydney shouted. Yeah, Harry agreed. Maybe there's a snake inside.
What?
Ida, is there something horrible in the box? Mary quivered. Before Ida could reply, the bell rang. Please be seated, Miss Mackle said. After the Pledge of Allegiance and lunch count, the teacher announced, Boys and girls, it's time to share our homework. I opened my backpack. Just about everybody put something on their desk. Even Harry, but it was too small to see what it was. Boys and girls, the teacher said, for the past few days we've been talking about our ancestors. Who can explain what that word means? It means our dead relatives, Harry blurted out. Then he flashed his white teeth. While Miss Mackle made a face, Mary reworded things. Ancestors are people in our family who lived before us. They are our family roots, our family tree. Thank you, Mary, the teacher replied. You know, class, when we learn about our ancestors, we learn more about ourselves. For homework, you were to talk to your parents about your ancestors and bring something to class about one of them. Who would like to go first? Everyone's hand went up except Song Lee's and Ida's. I expected Song Lee not to raise her hand. She was shy about going up in front of the class, but I had no idea why Ida didn't raise hers, so I asked. I want to be last, she whispered back. Mine is really special. I nodded as she squeezed her gold key. Me, 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 Sydney called out, waving his hand in the air as if he had just fallen in the middle of a frozen lake. Sydney, Miss Mackle replied calmly. Sid raced up to the front of the room and put a patch over his left eye. My grandmother told me about our family tree. And 300 years ago, one of my ancestors was a pirate. His name was Rupert, and he had red hair just like me. He sailed off the coast of Cape Cod. Isn't that cool? Everyone raised their eyebrows, even Harry. It was definitely cool. Sydney continued. My grandmother also told me the reason why he wore one gold earring. When a pirate dies and is washed ashore, whoever finds his dead body is supposed to dig him a grave and bury him. The gold earring pays for the guy's hard work. Fascinating, Miss Mackle exclaimed. Was Rupert's dead body washed ashore? Harry asked. No, Sydney groaned. Grandma said when his ship docked one day, he met a woman named Rose, married her, and wasn't a pirate anymore. Bummer. Bummer, Harry agreed. When it was Mary's turn, she unfolded a quilt. My great-grandmother Gilda made this in Israel. Her family saved scraps of cloth and sewed them together to make blankets. Mom said they didn't waste anything. It's so colorful, Miss Mackle exclaimed. I went next. My great-grandfather Benjamin was a president of a bank in Indiana. He was real good with numbers. But my mom told me there was something called the Great Depression in 1930, and his bank closed. He was sad about that. Then I showed everyone my piggy bank. Grandfather Ben gave this to my mom, and she gave it to me. I save my pennies and nickels in it now. After I sat down, it was Harry's turn. He held up a dog tag on a long silver chain. This belonged to my great-grandfather, Sam. He was a captain in World War II. Mom said when he was in Italy, an artillery shell fell off the rack right in front of 10 army men. Those huge bullets are heavier than a bowling ball. If one of those babies hit the ground, you'd be blasted to smithereens. Well, my great-grandfather caught it with his bare hands before it touched the ground. He saved his men, but he lost his thumb. He was a hero. Miss Mackle put her hand over her heart and sighed. When Song Lee went up to the front of the room, she spoke in a soft voice. Slowly, she opened her big bag. My great-grandfather, Chung Hee Park, was a painter. He painted this picture of the countryside in South Korea where my family lived. Korea means land of high mountains and sparkling streams, and that is what great-grandfather Chung Hee liked to paint. Song Lee finally smiled as she headed for her seat. I think she was relieved that her turn was over. Thank you for sharing your ancestors' beautiful painting, Miss Mackle said. And thank you, boys and girls, for sharing such inspiring stories. Finally, Miss Mackle called the last person. Ida? Ida picked up the black box and walked to the front of the room. Everyone sat up and waited to find out what was inside her locked box. Tomorrow's chapter is called Ida's Box. So we will keep reading tomorrow.